Ladies and gentlemen, gaities and gentlethems, the wellness industrial complex has struck again. So the news was on and they were doing this big report about how the FDA has approved another weight loss drug that could change the game. We've done this song and dance before. Why? Number one, these drugs are designed for people with diabetes. When people with diabetes take these drugs, the drugs help their system function better. When people without diabetes take these drugs, their system becomes dependent upon the drugs, and when you stop taking them, your system is fucked up. On top of that, when these types of pharmaceutical drugs are made available to the general public for cosmetic reasons, when they have a more intentional purpose, aka diabetics who need these kind of things to survive, to function, to live a happy, healthy life, the option is always going to go to the consumer who will spend more money than the insurance companies will. Meaning, when people start using these for weight loss, diabetics start to miss out on medication that is essential for their existence. Now, aside from all of that being super problematic, on top of it, fatness, obesity, size, weight, shape, etc., are not end-all be-all markers of health. So the short version of this very, very long rant is that BMI is rooted in eugenics, and eugenics is basically just racism masquerading as science from the late 1800s through like the mid 1900s. This eugenics-based system has been renamed and rebranded and all of these other PR stunts and blah, 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 blah throughout the years, but it is still in existence and working today, and we see that within the medical wellness, pharmaceutical, nutrition, all of these different industrial complexes that should not be industrialized. So not only is BMI rooted in racism and really, really bad science, I'm going to explain why it's bad science and why it doesn't tell us anything about our health. It's simply a ratio of height to weight. The Rock and Serena Williams are obese according to BMI, along with a handful of other Olympic athletes. Think about that. The use of shame and stigma and bad science is used to drive money-making industries that keep us sick. They keep us unwell, they keep us ill, and they make us, whether it is mentally, emotionally, or physically, so we keep putting money back into the system. And that's exactly what's happening with these drugs right now, as they're being promoted. The FDA has approved blah, 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 blah. The FDA, okay, first and foremost, the FDA is not always great. It does some good things. It does some really sideways, backwards, and shady things as well. So better markers of health, aside from weight. Obesity should not be a disease. It was literally the entire topic of my thesis, and I am using that as fuel for my dissertation currently. I know what I'm talking about. Not to mention my personal lived experience with this. The entirety, well, no, one of my injuries is because some dumbass dropped an ammo can on my foot. The rest of my musculoskeletal injuries are a result of disordered eating and actual eating disorders for over a decade. My body was essentially eating itself because I wasn't giving it enough fuel because BMI told me I was fat and disgusting and unhealthy. So people are shamed and stigmatized for this. And not only have I worked in this world professionally, I've had personal experience with it. I am also probably the academic that understands this the absolute most, despite my refusal to publish papers because the whole publisher pairs thing is nonsense. So I'm working on 2 movies about it and a YouTube series. And I have a podcast out about it and an entire Instagram page where I talk about it and I post on here about it sometimes too. So while they're distracting us with all of these FDA approvals and, oh, you could lose weight and feel better about yourself, because that's always the line. It's just rooted in shame and stigma. So what happens when we internalize all of this and we truly believe that our appearance equals our health, we start to buy products. And we keep buying products. And then they convince us that something else is wrong with us. And down the rabbit hole we go. And yet People don't have access to healthcare. People don't have access to nutritionally dense foods. People don't have access to safe places to live. There are so many things that should be being done instead of marketing diabetes drugs to people who will spend more so they can lose weight. And then as soon as they stop taking these drugs, their bodies don't know what to do anymore. You have essentially tricked your body into believing that you are diabetic and that you need these diabetic drugs in order to function and survive. So when you stop taking them, you gain all the weight back and your metabolism is effed. Like might not recover kind of effed. So there's a list floating up here of other topics that you can look into if you are interested, because I could dissertation level knowledge on this stuff, and it frustrates me to no end because it's all games and ploys and ridiculous and nonsense. So on top of it being rooted in racism, being bad science, and being weaponized to keep people ill under the guise of helping people feel better, there's moral and ethical issues with it too. If you have been deemed fat, overweight, obese, whatever category, I've been morbidly obese on the charts for, I don't know, the majority of my life. And I was a collegiate athlete, and then I did MMA, and then I was in the Marine Corps, and now I'm just trying to recover from all of the injuries and the disordered eating patterns that caused them. All at the hands of BMI as an end-all be-all metric for health. And BMI is what is used to diagnose obesity. The diagnostic criteria is not accurate, helpful, beneficial, scientific in any way. Therefore, the final diagnosis has no footing whatsoever. So if you are someone who is walking around and your heart, your lungs, your metabolism, your GI system, your bowel movements, your skin, if all of that is healthy, if your eyes are doing well, if you are getting enough movement throughout your week, throughout your day, if you are an active person and you eat a nutritionally dense diet, I hate using that word here, I formed that sentence very poorly. If you are a person who is doing all of these things right and you feel good and your numbers for your lab work are doing well, but your doctor is still fat shaming you, if it's an option, find another doctor. If it's not an option, ignore them when they fat shame you. MDs do not get any more than 14 hours worth of nutritional training. 14 hours. That's it. So they don't understand the nutritional components as much as they think that they do. And as a nutritionist, I do. So I can speak on this. They are also not trained in evolutionary medicine. They are trained to treat the symptoms instead of find the root cause. Now, the world of DOs is a little bit different, but the majority of us are going to see NPs and MDs. Yes, when you go see a doctor, they are the one with a medical degree, but you are the one who lives in your body. You are the one who has the experiences that you have, and you are the one who knows how you feel. And if you feel good, if you're taking care of yourself, but the scale still says a number that puts you in the obese category, tilt the fuck off. Like, seriously, I didn't mean it literally at first, but I remember looking at my scale and insulting it and then throwing it away because it was getting in my head and it was not helpful to my health whatsoever. Sure, when we start to eat better food and have the ability to move around, and when I say better food, I mean nutritionally dense food. I don't mean all of these fancy pants health foods that are out there, because most of the time if it's marketed as a superfood or a health food, they've added something to it, and the cleaner we eat, all of these words are problematic because people have used them in so many weaponized ways. We can't even have a real discussion about health and wellness without a word triggering someone, because the wellness industrial complex has made all of these things buzzwords and marketable and all of these trending, which means we can't have a real discussion about it unless we find new words to talk about it. Or we go into these discussions understanding that all that's just marketing. Let's talk about what's really going on. And what's really going on is that the system is not designed to make you healthy. The system is designed to keep you ill and then make you feel like it is your fault. Being fat is not inherently unhealthy, and being skinny is not inherently healthy. We got a lot of ground to cover on this, but don't hate yourself in the process.